Yeah, welcome to another edition of Fire Up Michigan. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving weekend. The Lions gave it a good run with the Buffalo Bills. It just wasn't meant to happen, but believe it or not, we aren't going to be talking a whole lot of Lions talk tonight, as there is an awful lot to address to for sure. So before I go into that, yeah, and Jeremy Ballrick probably let the cat out of the bag. But anyways, before I get to JB and George, this show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts as well. And if you're actually in front of your computer and you are subscribed, you are good, because then you are seeing this via the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. You can do so by going to youtube.com, hit South Florida Tribune, and then hit the subscribe button. With that said, I have two and maybe three. I don't know. When Mr. 3 comes in, we'll introduce him. In the meantime, we'll go with what we got. Smoking Jeremy B. Welcome back to the big show.
Glad to be here. Always happy to talk sports with you guys.
Well, we're always happy to have you. And George Eichhorn, what can I say? How many of these have we done? Don't test my math skills. I can't count that.
We go way back. We go back. Good to be back again on the on this wonderful show on Monday night.
Yeah, no, I enjoy doing this, and we'll probably be adding more and more guests as we continue to go forward. So let's take care of the business at hand. By now, everybody knows what the recap is. Michigan 45, Ohio State 23. Let me go over some basic numbers here. Jim Harbaugh started 0-5 in the series. Guess what? It's 2-0. Leave Jimbo alone. A couple of years ago, he may have been on the outs, but all of a sudden, he's definitely far from being on the outs. The last time Michigan won in Columbus was on November 18th. In 2000. So I'm going to give you some interesting tidbits here about this thing. Ryan Day was a starting quarterback at the University of New Hampshire under offensive coordinator Chip Kelly. Interesting, huh? Wow. Yeah, we're using that age card. Okay, but it gets even better than that. Jim Harbaugh was playing for the San Diego Chargers. My goodness. Okay. So for all those Ohio State coach people that want to knock Harbaugh, yes, folks, he had a pretty good NFL career, which a lot of people are doing. And here's another thing. C.J. Stroud had not been born yet, October 3rd, 2001. So there you go. Now Michigan scores 21 unanswered points. So we have no Blake Corum, no problem, like we all thought there would be last week. So we're eating crow because we thought with Corum the Wolverines would be doomed. Not the case, because J.J. McCarthy proved that he could step up at a big time by going for 4 touchdowns, 3 passes for touchdowns, as well as 263 yards. And he had a rush, and I believe he threw. So he had 4 touchdowns, 1 rush. And then, of course, let's not forget the play of Donovan Edwards, only 216 yards. That's all.
And 9.8 yards per carry.
Yeah.
So I want to thank Will Vogel for being our unofficial 4th guest tonight. So let me go ahead and put a couple of his comments on here. This guy's been waiting patiently. So if I can't read right, there you go. Hi, guys. So happy Michigan won. I was cheering for them. And also shocked Miguel Cabrera didn't retire, in my and probably other people's opinion. He's already a first future Hall of Famer. So, we'll get to Miggy in a little while. And another one of Will's comments here, I want to get those out early, okay, is I'm so happy Michigan won and was going for them and surprising retire already, future Hall. So pretty much a lot of the same thing. I think a lot of us probably agree with that. So with that,
and then he says, "Hi guys."
Yeah, there you go. So there you go. So he's on a roll. So anyways, got Cornelius Johnson, 4 catches, 160 yards, along with a couple of touchdowns as well. And then, so all right, I gave you a lot to bite on, Jeremy. Break it all down, buddy.
Well, the thing about Donovan Edwards, he had a 48-yard rush, and then he had a 75-yard rush. Cornelius Johnson, what was his 2 touchdowns? The one was what, 85 yards?
You tell me.
It was a yard. Yeah, it was a bunch of yak yards. See, J.J. McCarthy hit him in stride, and no one could catch him. And
70, then I think 75 and 69.
75 and 69. Yeah. I mean, amazing performance.
Yep.
And the only thing that bothers me about J.J. McCarthy is he still has his accuracy issues. He didn't throw any picks, thank God, which means he's making better decision making. But when you're 12 of 24, that doesn't scream NFL caliber quarterback. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
but 263 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he also put one in on the ground, 6 rushes for 27 yards. Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud, he was 31 of 48 for 349 and 2 touchdowns, but he did throw 2 interceptions.
Yeah, he did. So, George, what's your take on this?
Well, I'm not so much concerned about JJ's NFL stock right now, Jeremy. Let's not rush the kid, okay? There's plenty of time for that. If anything, Stroud hurt his NFL
that's why I mentioned that.
Yeah, and those teams that were looking at him for first round right now might be doing a second look. But that being said, they're going to play at least one more game, Ohio State. It was just tremendous. It was a tremendous coaching job. I mean, nobody was picking Michigan to win, hardly anybody. You had to be a real diehard. I give you guys credit last week because Jeremy and I think Scott, you both said, well, if Blake Corum is healthy, you were picking U of M. And then look what happens. Blake Corum is out. And so is there.
He actually did one run to begin the game.
Yeah, no, he got a couple of touches.
But he wasn't doing anything. And it was nice to see him be able to cut, which means the knee isn't that bad off.
Yep.
But they saw something when he came off the field, and they said, yeah, you're just going to come back here.
Absolutely. And Donovan Edwards playing with a busted hand or finger, reels off those 2 long runs. And like you said, Jeremy, the running attack was potent. The big play, the explosion of plays is what really killed Ohio State. They made no adjustments back in the secondary to cover Cornelius or even to try to pull down Edwards on those long runs. I mean, they look like
it's kind of hard to pull down somebody that fast when your O-line is giving you 4.6 yards before you get touched.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there was just no reason to expect this kind of explosion. But that being said, you got to give Michigan the credit. The offensive and defense coordinators both did their homework and made the necessary adjustments they had to make during the game or at halftime, whenever. But they never gave up hope. This team is a team built of character, Scott.
And Jeremy. It really is. Another interesting sidelight. Michigan won by 22 points, and their last win occurred 22 years ago. So you want to talk about 22-22? My goodness. I mean, that to me is unbelievable. So let's break down a couple of stats here. And a lot of these stats are provided by the Michigan Wolverines communications department. And so that way everybody knows that we certainly get what we can get out of it. So with that said, okay, Michigan has achieved its first 12-0 season under head coach Jim Harbaugh, marks the 4th season in program history with at least 12 wins, 1905, 1997, 2021. 13 single season wins would be a program record, okay? The program's 24 wins over the last 2 seasons are a program best in a 2-year span. You're talking about a guy who was on the outs and yet, believe it or not, a year ago, he was actually a situation where he was contemplating the Vikings job, but that didn't work out and he had to turn things around, and look what's happened now. So let's go over a couple of other interesting things here. U of M's 14-game conference win streak is the program's longest since a 16-game conference win streak, spanning from 96 to 98. Now we're going before the century here. Okay, Michigan speaking the program's first back-to-back Big Ten title since 2003 and 4. And now, here's another kicker. U of M played spoiler to the Buckeyes last week. Would won every game this year by double digits. Okay, I repeat, double digits. U of M also ended Ohio State's 29-game Big Ten home winning streak, which dated back to the 2015 season. I'll go on a little bit more because some of these numbers are pretty impressive. Quarterback J.J. McCarthy has begun his career as a starter with an 11-0 record, setting a new standard for most wins to begin a starting quarterback's career before his first loss. The previous record holder was Dennis Franklin. George, there's a name of the past.
Oh, yeah, Denny Franklin. Yep.
Right, who won his first 10 starts before suffering a loss. And against the Buckeyes, McCarthy became the first Wolverine to ever throw 3 touchdowns of 45-plus in the same game in the history of the rivalry. Okay, getting back to what you guys are saying, running back Donovan Edwards at 75 and 85 yards, came the first play in program history with 2 touchdown runs of 70-plus yards in the same game. and wide receiver Cornelius Johnson, 69 yards, and then 75. He became the first player in program history with 2 touchdown receptions of 65 yards plus in the same game. Folks, if you think I'm talking too fast, let me give you some good advice. Listen to the broadcast again and then take notes. It don't matter. There's a lot here, okay?
Here's another interesting factoid about this defense. Do you realize this season, other than the 14 points given up to Illinois in the second half, they have not given up a touchdown to another team
in the second half.
in the second half. They have given up a total of 26 points in the second half this season in 11 games.
Amazing. Unbelievable.
Well, here's a few more things I'm going to throw
Oh, my
at you.
gosh.
Ready?
Yeah.
More.
Yes, go ahead.
Michigan's 5 touchdowns of 45 plus yards were the most any team has scored against an AP top 5 ranked team in a single game since the 2005 season. And if that isn't good enough, all that led to 45 points for the Wolverines. It's U of M's highest total in the history of the rivalry, and its most points in enemy territory since scoring 58 points in 1946. It marked the first time in the history of the rivalry that Michigan scored 40-plus points in consecutive games, and the team's largest margin of victory in the rivalry since 1976 is 22-0 shutout. One other thing I'm going to throw out there, well, a couple more, and then I'll get a little bit defer back to you guys. U of M is scoring 39.8 points per game and allowing 12.7 points against on average. Michigan is one of 2 teams ranked in the top 10 in both scoring and offense was 7th, and scoring defense 3rd, along with Alabama tied for 5th on offense and tied for 10th on defense. And of course, one other thing, and then we'll go ahead and defer to you guys. There's a lot, so I'm going to go through each of them, but I'll let you comment as we go along. Michigan leads the country in scoring differential, 27.2. Georgia's 26.4, and Ohio State 25.3. They're the only teams in the country with average scoring margins of plus 25 points per game. U of M plus 326 and Georgia plus 323 are the only teams to have outscored opponents by 305 points cumulatively this year. So with that said, I'll go over more stuff. George, you're nodding your head. Go, give me your thoughts about the latest.
Well, you're one for the history books there. I'll tell you, Scott, those are some unbelievable stats. Okay, this is like a generation ago when they beat Ohio State. You said back in the year 2000, I believe,
Right.
at Columbus. I mean, and the stuff you're just rattling off is amazing.
Yeah.
The thing that really strikes me is the fact that, like you said, U of M has got a very high ranked offense and a high ranked defense. And you know what's incredible to me is the fact that, yeah, it all started with that crazy summer, like you said, guys, you know, him going to Minnesota and flirting with the Vikings job and all that crap. And then we had that tunnel incident. Well, before that, of course, we had all the criticism. You're playing a cupcake schedule, all the softies. You didn't have enough guts to play a road team of any significance or no conference non-conference road games at all. And, you know, Michigan's getting all that flack and all that crap for that. It hasn't been an easy year. Let's just put it that way. Right. And then you lose your how could we forget the quarterback controversy? Of course. So there's so many things to peel off with this Michigan program this year. And a lot of them were negative stuff. But that being said, like I said earlier, this team has character. This team is being built upon something really special here. You know, the camaraderie and the sportsmanship. And then, well, you know what also came to my mind? Remember the coaches they lost, including Geddes, you know, in the offseason. So there's been a lot of stuff going on in Ann Arbor. Some of it's not good.
Didn't we also lose our defensive coordinator to the Ravens as well?
Yes, thank you. Oh, yeah. John Harbaugh, right, brought the guy back to the Ravens. Thank you.
Mike McDonald, if I remember right.
Yep, Mike McDonald. And that was because they lost Wink Martindale to Brian Dabble to be his defensive coordinator.
Okay. Yes. But all being said, I mean, like you said, Scott, these statistics, some of them are just unbelievable. First-time stuff in program history. That doesn't happen against Ohio State all that often.
No,
Only Lions thing I want to say is I don't know if she's watching, but she is. The mother of Quintez Cephas is a friend of mine on Facebook. Lakeisha Cephas, if you're watching tonight, happy birthday.
Oh, no.
And thank you for that. And also our friend Will, he likes receiver Bell.
Oh, Ronnie Bell's
good comment.
Right.
Ronnie Bell, remember last year, guys, he suffered that injury,
Right.
and couldn't even play, but he stuck it out. He wanted to come back, be a captain or co-captain and lead this team, and know he wasn't making those 70-yard catches against Ohio State. But Ronnie Bell is such a leader. So thank you, Will Vogel, for bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Will be appearing on tomorrow night's edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. I'll say this about Will Vogel. I've never seen a younger, aspiring broadcaster to me that tries hard. I think the potential with Will Vogel is just off the charts. It's just right now my goal is to make sure that when he comes on our shows, he relaxes a little bit and focuses, because I work with this guy on Basket Bros, and this kid is a stud waiting to happen. So, Will, we appreciate you coming on and voicing your opinion, and your support is greatly appreciated. So, I want to go over a couple more stats, Jeremy, and then I'm going to defer to you, okay?
Okay.
First of all, U of M has scored points on its opening possession in 10 of 12 games this season, 7 touchdowns, and 3 field goals. And you know what's so interesting about a lot of these numbers? We're not talking about early in a century here. We're talking about stuff that goes really way back. and that's why I'm so thankful that I'm on U of M's mailing list, so that when I share these to my followers on Twitter, that I'm able to go out there and let people know that, this is pretty good stuff. And, so it will continue on. So the Michigan defense has forced 46 3-and-outs on the season, including 18 in the last 4 games and 12 games. And the opponent's first, second half possession has resulted in a change of 11 times, 5 3-and-outs and 4 punts and 1 turnover. So, and one other thing before we go to Blake Corum, dating back to this time last season, U of M has averaged 3 rushing touchdowns per game, 48 rushing touchdowns in 16 games. The team has 35 in 12 games of 2022 in the Final Four of 2021. So I've got a lot more stats, but you know what? I'm not going to give them all away tonight. Here's what I want you folks out there doing that are paying attention, okay? I put these statistics out on Saturdays coming from the Wolverines PR department. I would encourage you to subscribe or follow the South Florida Tribune or Tribune City, okay, which is our backup site for a lot of Motown. And you know what? I tag them both. I'm going to put them all out there, and I encourage you to read every last one of them. There were just so many good things that I felt we had to incorporate in this broadcast because of the magnitude of the accomplishment that they've gone out there and beaten Ohio State not once but 2 times in a row. And none of us, including a lot of national media, I'll say Paul Feinbaum, Heather Dinich of ESPN, for whom I both respect greatly, admitted, you know what, we're impressed now. We're not knocking Harbaugh. And Stephen A. Smith, when he talked about his brother John looking a little nervous, body language sometimes in life tells you everything. But Stephen A. Smith was kind of jumping on the Jim Harbaugh horn. And again, since I'm talking Blake Corum real quick, despite the fact that he's been hurt, he still ranks 8th in the country in rushing yards at 1,463, the highest total by a Wolverine since Denard Robinson, 2010, 1,702 yards. And by the way, for whatever it's worth, Denard Robinson graduated from nearby Deerfield Beach High School. And I had an opportunity to write a story on Denard Robinson when he was actually playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he came down to Miami. I saw Brandon Powell. So there's a lot of good guys that come out of here. And Corum is 3rd in the nation in total touchdowns with 19. I'm not going to go over any more stats. I feel that that's plenty because I know we have a lot of stuff I want to talk about the Tigers. So, Jeremy, with that said, I said a mouthful. Then again, everybody that knows me I do anyways. But go ahead. What's your interpretation of the numbers I threw your way, Smoking?
They're astounding. I mean, What else can you say? I mean, the things that they did in this game is amazing. I mean, Cornelius Johnson, Donovan Edwards, J.J. McCarthy. Oh, he can't throw the ball deep. Well, y'all can all just eat a big crap sandwich on that one.
You're right, Smoking John Derby.
Yeah, I'm glad the way you've kind of cleaned things up a little, Smoking. I can imagine what you would have said 2 weeks ago if we weren't doing our best on the
I wish
network.
I could use the name, my favorite name for the
I'm
Ohio
sure
State
you could.
Buckeyes,
But you're doing your best here, JB. Okay, to
because
adhere to what I call.
I'm being nice.
Yeah, no, I try being an old school guy like George to adhere to as many FCC regulations as I can to keep it family and clean. And I know, Smoking Jeremy, okay, that every podcast on the planet doesn't care. I do. I want to keep it clean, as G-rated as I can. Okay, sometimes it doesn't always work out that way, but don't say we don't try, anyways. But so whatever.
All I know is my vacuum didn't work, and I put an Ohio State sticker on it. Now it sucks again.
That's okay. Well, one other thing I want to point out about news that took place today that I want to make sure we address and everybody has a crack. We got some Miguel Cabrera stuff I want to address too as well. Cade McNamara entered the transfer portal. So obviously he was out for much of the year due to injuries. But, to his credit, he's a guy that got the job done and snapped the Ohio State drought a year ago and took him into the college football playoffs. So
Absolutely, Scott.
So what I'm going to do on Cade here before we go to Miggy, excuse me, I'm going to get a fresh start somewhere else. Smoking, give me a prediction where you think that Cade is going to wind up.
He's hitting the transfer portal is what you're getting at, right?
That's what I am getting at.
He's either going to go somewhere down south or he's going to go west. He's going to go where the weather's warmer and he doesn't have to deal with the climate. FAU.
Really?
No, just kidding. I don't know.
Yeah,
I did that to get your eyebrows raised and it worked.
Well, you did. No, but really, but let me just say this about Florida Atlantic, since they are in my backyard. They too fired Willie Taggart over the weekend. And I have a feeling that hopefully athletic director Brian White will go ahead and open a checkbook a little bit. And also John Kelly, the president, will. FAU is a good place to go to school. They just need a big time coach to really be able to attract better players. And I think that Willie Taggart, to me, is a nice guy, but he's been in 4 spots and and his record is, to me, unsatisfactory for what he's done. But his business acumen skills are good because in 2 of the stops he's being paid. So, hey, I'd like to have him or Bobby Bonilla as business partners because they're doing something right. So, but I know he's from Reno, Nevada, too, Smoking. So tell me where you think he's going to really wind up other than trying to jerk my chain.
Oh, man. I'm so happy for all of us Wolverine fans and for Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines. I even wrote them off prior to the season because I didn't know half the names on the defensive roster. I had no clue who our defensive coordinator was. And I looked at our schedule and I said, it looks like a 9-3 season. I'm not going to, I don't pull punches that's exactly what I thought as soon as I looked at the schedule.
No, I can't agree with that at all. The schedule was pretty much a cupcake schedule.
No, I knew they'd win early. I thought the 3 losses was going to be Penn State, Michigan State, and Ohio State. That's what I was getting at. They were winning the other 9. I didn't see anybody in the other 9 that scared me.
Okay, with that said, I'm going to ask you again, okay, because I know that the college football committee looked down on them for those 3 lopsided wins against a very weaker schedule. Give me your prediction, Jeremy, about where you think Cade McNamara is going to wind up. You said warm weather. That's not going to tell with me. I've been in this business 43 years.
I have no clue. I have no clue. There's way too many schools. Okay, Florida.
Okay. That's fair enough. Just give me something. Who knows? You might be right. We were all wrong last week. Anything's possible. But warm weather is what you indicate. So we'll just say we're going to put Smoking Jeremy on the hook for Florida. George, where do you think he's going to go?
Well, I would have said USC, but I think Caleb has one more year, doesn't he, before the draft, Williams?
Yeah, Caleb.
Yeah. Caleb, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
he's got one more year because otherwise I would have said USC, but he's going back there, Williams. So I think that Cade McNamara is going to go with, I agree with Jeremy. It's going to be a Southern school probably. I don't think he's going to go all the way out to the West Coast. So I'm going to say he's probably going to end up, see, again, I don't know the status of the year of their quarterbacks in what year their eligibility is. So
Well, but come on, put it out there, George. We
I'll
got
just say FAU.
You will. Okay. That's fair enough. All right. I'll tell you where I believe he's going to go. Miami.
Mm.
I'll tell you why Miami. Number one, who's their offensive coordinator?
Oh, Gaddis.
Yes. If Josh Gaddis doesn't get a head coaching job, and there are a lot of openings out there, I think he comes down to Miami in my backyard, and I think he'll end up, to me, I think he's going to go to Miami. It'd be great to have him in my backyard. So here, you know what? Let's go to Vogues. He'll tell you his take, okay? Auburn or Oklahoma. There you go. What do you think of those two ideas?
I don't think they have a shot. The reason why I said Florida is I know Anthony Richardson is more than likely hitting the portal. And I'm going to say my assessment on that particular quarterback again. He's Malik Willis on a good team.
Okay. Well, like that's okay. Will went out there and put it out there, Auburn or Oklahoma. Auburn obviously now has a new coach. Anything's possible. You never know what's going to happen there. I always say any team that gets a new coach is fair game. I tell you right now, Mario Cristobal, when I was at his press conference on Saturday night when we lost to Pittsburgh, said everything's in play, the transfer portal. I give Mario Cristobal a mulligan for the year he had. He inherited
Florida has embraced the NIL, right?
Yeah, I believe. I don't know, but Miami's is, I haven't followed that. I believe they have, but I'm not sure.
I think they have too. That's not a bad guess. That's not a bad observation, Scott. What the Geddes, the combination, and if he's still, like you said, going to be coaching, them next year, the coordinator position in Miami, yeah, that would be pretty good to make a play for Cade McNamara.
Well, I mean, think about it for a second, okay? Think about it. Number one, okay, you had a good run with an offensive coordinator that you were with in Ann Arbor. Why would you not want to reunite with the guy?
Yeah.
I would think. I mean, that's just me. I mean, but the way I look at it, to me, no, again, barring, when I talked to Josh Gaddis during our pregame in August, this guy's going to be a head coach someplace. There'll be so many good openings. I hope for Josh's sake, though, that he does not go out there and take a job, where he's in a position to fail. That's the only thing I don't want to see him do. But Josh Gaddis is a head coach waiting to happen. The question is when and where. So, but again, we'll talk about the theme here, Jeremy, for whatever it's worth. You said Florida, warm weather, so you're consistent there. He's from Reno. You never know if he can wind up with a West Coast school. We don't know.
And that's the reason why I said West. He could end up going west and taking over because the guy at Nevada is absolutely dog crap right now. Right. And, since Carson Strong, wasn't it Carson Strong that was in Nevada, right?
Right.
I believe so.
Yeah. I mean, you could have California, Stanford out in the Pac-12. I mean, I'm just throwing those. I mean, listen, we won't get too far off the beaten path here. You say Florida, that's possible under Billy Napier. FAU, the only way he even gets there, okay, is if he has a high-profile coach, okay, and then who will bring him in. Now, I will say this about Florida Atlantic to their benefit. They brought in a guy by the name of N'Kosi Perry who played for Miami a couple of years ago and actually threw a couple of touchdown passes in a 77-0 rout over Savannah State. I was actually at that game. So what was interesting about the fact is you bring in a high-profile coach and you know what? Let's talk about FAU a little bit longer, okay? I know it's Michigan show, but Devin Singletary's from there. They've had a lot of good players coming out of there lately, so don't sleep on them. And they played in Metro Detroit a couple of times. They played Michigan State over at Ford Field. And, George, you and I saw them beat, I think, Central Michigan up there. So people in the metropolitan Detroit area, they do know about Florida Atlantic. They really do. So, don't sleep on these guys. I mean, I think that would be a dark horse, but it all depends on the coach and the standard and what FAU was looking for. If they can bring in a high-profile coach that will finally make, the last high-profile coach anybody cared about was Howard Schnellenberger. To him and built the thing from scratch. So I think any of the three are interesting. I wish Cade well, and I want to make sure we realize it's tough to go ahead. He was involved in a quarterback competition. We knew how good A.J. McCarthy was. The knock on Harbaugh was for a while he couldn't develop quarterbacks, and now he's starting to develop them and fall into the strengths that everybody expected him to do a while back. So, and face it, Kate, he did beat Ohio State first, and nobody could take that accomplishment with him.
Oh,
Tough
of course
year,
not.
fresh start.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
Yeah, he did very well, and like you said, Scott, I mean, it was a championship season under his belt last year, and they lost in the playoff. But yeah, he has a great set of accomplishments under his belt.
you know what? Will does make a good comment worth showing to the audience. So hey, Gaddis maybe Liberty or too small. For some crazy reason, Will, and I don't know why, that might make a little bit of sense because Hugh Freeze, okay, has gone out there and put Liberty on the map. And I think that Josh Gaddis could be intrigued by Liberty University. Don't sell that university short. So, yeah, you know what, Will, thanks for bringing that up. I think it's possible if he gets an opportunity to do it. I wouldn't rule that one out. What do you guys think before we go on to Miggy?
No, you're right. Freeze did a great job and laid out some really good fundamental, a good future for Liberty. And that wouldn't be a bad move at all. And I really think that that is a school on the rise. It's a small school, but boy,
Yeah.
oh boy, they're having they have great success the last year or two under Coach Freeze.
Yeah. So, all right, well, you know what, Jeremy, you had a nickname for the Buckeyes. Asking me, I'll let you go ahead and mention it before we go ahead and move on. Yeah, why not? Who cares? One
Well,
time.
it has to be clean.
It's semi-clean, right? It's the Ohio State Suckeyes.
All right, good enough. That's all you need to do. You said it. That's it. Okay.
Yep, that's it. It's done.
All right, it's clean enough. I mean, right now, over the last weekend, you know what? They didn't look very good. Michigan.
You talk about coaches who may be in hot water. Oh, you don't lose back to back to Michigan without getting your share of criticism. Trust me.
Yeah, you want to know any? Yeah, John Cooper and Earl Bruce found that out the hard way.
Didn't they though?
Yeah. All right. So let's transition over to Miguel Cabrera. 39 years old, retiring end of the year. Give you the numbers: 12-time All-Star, scheduled to earn $32 million in 2023. Final season, 8-year, $248 million contract. 33rd member of the 3,000 hit club, and he did it against Colorado. George, I know you were hoping to go see him do it. Didn't quite work out, but let's talk about the numbers going into entering the final season. MLB's active leader in hits, 3,088. Batting average, 308. Home runs, 507. RBIs, 1847. You know what, JB? Go ahead. What do you think?
Cabrera?
Yeah.
Well, if he's not retiring, I have a feeling he's going to stay right here and be our DH. I don't see him being out as a positional player anymore. He doesn't have the lateral movement to be able to play either corner. I mean, he hasn't played the hot corner in a minute. And he's been playing decent, but not great at first base either. And Candy Ebling comes in and says, Cade McNamara to Notre Dame.
Oh, George would love that, wouldn't you, George?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have thought of that, Candy.
Yeah, Candy, leave it to Candy Ebling. She's a jack of all trades, photographer. She's a controller with the website. And, of course, now she's becoming a dynamite broadcaster. Good job, Candy. That's one that really kind of got past us. So she said that he committed to them before going to Michigan. She's making us all look stupid now, but that's okay. I'd rather look stupid and have it out there than omit it altogether.
If they had a coach that knew what he was doing, he might go there.
Yeah, and by the way, Candy Ebling, just so we can promote it in advance, will be on this Wednesday's edition of the Sports Exchange. So, and she does good work on 3 Chicks in a Pod, Chicks and Salsa, and everything else connected with Sideline Sports. Yeah. All right, Candy, good. Appreciate you chiming in there. All right, back to Mickey, George.
Let's face it, guys. That's a bad contract for the Tigers. They can't gracefully not bring him back or buy him out. That would look very bad.
No, they have to beg him to retire.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen.
Please,
Miggy's not going to walk.
We'll give you $10 million. Just walk away.
There, well, he wants all his money.
I know.
He's got a tough situation. He's got that mistress, the lady that he's got to pay her, and he's got to obviously support those children, and also his own family. He's got a lot of bills to pay. I just hope that they surround him with enough talent that you're not going to see Miggy play day in and day out. It's going to be like A.J. Hinch did this year. Remember in the later part of this year where he had him riding the pines almost every other day, sometimes 2 games in a row. But I think you're going to see the same thing next year. So I don't know what kind of production they're going to expect out of him, being that he's not going to be full-time DH and being the fact that he is this old. I mean, it's a tough situation. I do wish that he would have gone out the same time as Pujols in the 2022 season. But like we said, that wasn't going to happen. He's not going to walk away from that kind of coin.
I wouldn't either.
I wouldn't walk away from 26 million.
They gave it to him.
Million, isn't it?
They gave it to him. He deserves it. Right.
Wasn't it like 26 or 22?
No, it's 32 million.
32 now? Okay. Oh, yeah, because they backloaded that contract, right?
Right. You know what? I'm not walking away from $32 million. The only thing that we can hope for as individuals that monitor the Tigers is that Scott Harris and company go out there and put together a halfway decent team so we can at least get out, leave on a winning note. And I'll tell you what, as we continue to progress during the offseason, we will be talking more about the Tigers and the Red Wings and a little bit about the Lions. It's just tonight's one of those situations where Miguel Cabrera as well as Wolverines are certainly dominating what the headlines are. And I believe that you lean towards where the trends are going. And that was the whole mindset behind what we're doing tonight. But yeah, you know what? Let's face reality. It would have been good to see him go out with Albert Pujols. Yeah. But, here, let's just look at some of the milestones that are out there for him to be had. He could get to 3,100 hits, which is 12 away. So that's doable if you want to start rounding up numbers. RBIs, 1847. Is it possible to hit 1,900? If he plays a fair amount of games, he's healthy. That's doable. I don't know how many home runs you're going to get out of him at this particular point. Batting average, I just hope it stays above 300. But I think the one thing about Cabrera, as well as a lot of the older guys that are out there playing, is you got to be careful that you don't backload that contract that puts you in a bind. You really do. Because if you end up doing that, then it sets you back a little ways. And, we found out with Albert Pujols with the Angels and Miggy, and I think a lot of owners will be reluctant to go ahead and do that going forward. So, you know what? More power to him. Let him collect the last year of his contract. And for some reason, I don't know why, even if he were to change his mind, and I don't think he will, where he could potentially finish his career? I would say the Miami Marlins, although Daniel Alvarez told me he didn't think it would ever happen, that the Marlins wouldn't do it. But you know what? You never know. If you're looking to sell tickets on the back end, I've seen crazier things happen. But no, I think he retires as a Tiger, knowing that his physical skills are declining and his body's taking a beating. And he's given everything that he had to the game. He's won Triple Crown, been to the All-Star game, 12-time All-Star for that matter. Won a World Series, been to a couple of other World Series, only to come up on the short end. So, and I think when you go out there and see Miguel Cabrera, his number will be retired with the rest of the Tiger legends out in the outfield for sure. I don't know about a statue for him, but definitely a retired number. I don't know
if he won a World Series. If we won a World Series in his career here, yeah, he would have one of those statues out there.
Right, but the World Series came with the Florida Marlins.
Yeah, you got to remember too, guys, that they don't even have a statue for Sparky Anderson. They don't have one for Alan Trammell nor Lou Whitaker.
Or Jack.
I don't know, or Morris. And yeah, so I don't know if they're going to even continue that because.
Didn't they unveil one for Lou?
No statue.
All right.
That's a shame.
You guys can answer Will's question. All right, Jeremy, take a crack at it first. Do you think Miggy's come back as a coach or something else?
I think he would come back as a phenomenal hitting coach. He helped Nick Castellanos become a power hitter. He helped JD Martinez with his swing. I think he would be a great person to bring back as a hitting coach.
Okay. No, great question. Well, George, give me your thought about it.
I don't think so. I think he's played in the game long enough. He wants to get away from it for a little bit. If he does go into coaching, I don't believe it's going to be immediately. He would take a couple of years off. I'm not disputing what Jeremy said. Obviously, Detroit would be a good fit. But,
no, I'm not saying here. I mean anywhere. He'd be a great hitting coach.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put words in your mouth, Jeremy. If I did, I'm spitting them right back out. No, I don't see it as a Tiger coach, but you're right. He could be somewhere else. Miami.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miami. I think actually he takes the Victor Martinez route. Does take 2 or 3 years off to kind of get himself charged up a little bit, relaxed, enjoy the game, and see what opportunities are there. Try to get a hand on his personal life. But I could see, I mean, we all know Victor Martinez and Kenny Rogers are guys that when their careers are over, they stay out of the limelight. I believe Kenny Rogers, I don't know for certain, but he's living in Plant City, Florida right now, just doing his own thing. And we know Victor Martinez, I think, bought some land out in the Orlando area, and he's retiring, enjoying his time. So, once again, Will, another great question. Do I think Miggy will come back as a coach or something with the Tigers? Maybe down the road, but what I could see him do is possibly going to Lakeland every year and being a spring training instructor, like a lot of the Tigers are known for bringing in a lot of their past players back to give them about a month or two, and they'll feel whether he likes it or not. So I wouldn't rule that out. And let's face it, if indeed he lives in the Florida area, everything's a drive up the Florida Turnpike to get where you want to go inside of 2 or 3 hours. If that ain't good enough, if you're brave enough to drive on I-4, you do that. And I-75 or wherever roads lead to Lakeland. So, so here we have it. Tonight's broadcast is titled The Unbeaten Showdown. We obviously know that Michigan and Ohio State played, and Michigan Wolverines got rid of the Rodney Dangerfield effect. If they didn't get any respect, they're going to get it now. Every college football expert that thought that they were experts, the Wolverines and Harbaugh got the last laugh. And now you obviously feel that now here's the thing. Blake Corum couldn't go on Saturday, but the Big Ten title game, I believe, is at 8:00 on Saturday night.
Yes.
I don't know where he's going to stand then, but at least you got a lot of information that, let's face the reality, Donovan Edwards, you saw a lot more Wolverine playmakers on Saturday than we really saw going out there. But Donovan Edwards, Cornelius Johnson, and obviously J.J. McCarthy had what I consider a very signature performance is what he did. And he plays Purdue. The only thing I'll say to the Wolverines, don't take Purdue lightly. I've seen crazier things happen. I think they played Iowa last year, right? Everybody wasn't sure whether that was a game.
They beat Iowa.
Never took place. So
yeah, they got a 6-year quarterback at Purdue. Unfortunately, his brother died suddenly, so he's taken a quick leave of absence from the Boilermakers right now. But Aiden O'Connell, I agree, Scott. I mean, he's had a good year. They've had good years out of their running game, and of course, Michigan won't take Purdue lightly, but you always worry about that come down after the important game that you did perform, obviously, last Saturday where you wiped out the Buckeyes. And so Michigan better be ready, because even though Purdue was never expected to get this Big Ten title appearance, and they're going to, by the way, guys, they're going to have a lot of fans there, because at Indianapolis is the site of the game on Saturday.
Right. No, that's true.
So the Purdue fans are going to go in buses and carloads, I'm sure, to attend that game at Indy. But there'll be a lot of Michigan fans as well. But, I really think that Michigan's going to be, and they are heavy favorites. They really shouldn't have a problem, but they just got to keep their heads straight and not look forward to the NCAA pairings.
Yeah, I'm not even asking you guys to make a prediction on this one. I was more interested in Ohio State. But you know what I'm going to ask you guys to do, though? I'm going to ask Jeremy first. What are your thoughts about the Wisconsin Badgers hiring Luke Fickell?
I think it's a great move for them. It's going to make them relevant. It's going to improve the recruiting class 100%, because Luke Fickell, he's been doing a great job wherever he's been.
Right.
And, he had a bad year. He lost a lot of talent off that team too. You have to look at what went to the NFL off of that team.
Right.
It was going to be a bad year. I mean, but at the same time, coaching makes up for talent loss.
Right.
We saw a lot of NFL talent come off that Michigan defense this year, and yet they still performed above and beyond all expectations that almost every fan had. Almost everybody I talked to thought we were losing those big 3 games.
So let me ask, here's the thing, okay? I read up on this. You know how much it's paying to go to Madison? And Bruce Motta once told George and I over at a DSM Christmas party that if he wasn't at Michigan, he would go to Wisconsin. So don't sell the Badgers short. That it's one of the best jobs. You know how much they're paying him to go over there to make that move? $7.9 million a year to live in Madison. Life is really tough, isn't it?
It's amazing the money they're throwing at these head coaches nowadays. But he is a good coach. Fickell, he's a good fundamental coach. He also has, like you said, Jeremy, he has good recruiting talent, and he's going to do a nice job there. I've always admired the Wisconsin program. I really have.
Yeah,
I mean, I know that they get these good big offensive linemen, and everybody talks about that. Their lines are always these guys are so huge. But beyond that, they've had consistency. They've been to the Rose Bowl many times. I mean, they have been a really, really stellar Big Ten program, even much so than like we talked about a few weeks back about how bad Nebraska was, and the Wisconsin even is better than Iowa, of course. So.
Well, and of course, Nebraska just made a hire with the Matt Rule, who I think it'll take him time to get going. I think he could be all right, but I'm not sure. Tom Osborne says he's not a fan of the hire, but Tom, you know what? A lot of the hires that they've made lately haven't been any good. Will Vogel was asking me what our Mount Rushmore of the Tigers. You know what? Don't answer that. We're going to just save that for a future episode.
Oh,
I agree. Give us some time.
Well, you have to wait on that one, my friend. We're trying to get to as many things as we can with you, but that's one. We'll just give you a fat, old TBD. But we appreciate the question. More importantly, I appreciate the idea. I think that Luke Fickel is going to do well with Wisconsin. I really do. He has a great track record everywhere.
Oh, and then he says Michigan football players Mount Rushmore. If you don't have Charles Woodson and Tom Brady on there, I think you're wrong.
Right. Well, I think, yeah, I agree. But again, Will Vogel's full of ideas for shows. So you know what, Will? Since you're active enough in the chat room, we're just going to have to throw a couple TBDs to be determined out there. And we'll talk about Michigan, Mount Rushmore. I like those ideas. I think at a time where we slow down later in the year, we're going to need some good quality, fresh content. Will just nailed a couple of great ideas, which will incorporate future editions. And if he's so active like he is, don't be surprised. Well, you just might wind up on here as well with one of these things. I don't know. I'm not making any.
He's been wanting to do a show with me for a while.
Yeah, well, I know. You never know. Be careful what you ask for, Will, but you have a couple ideas that you might just be involved in, but they won't happen until after January 1st because we don't have a lot of time, and we're just trying to make sure we prioritize what we need to get in before we take our holiday break. But even though, folks, we will take a holiday break, I have a lot of good broadcasts that I'm working on remote that we'll definitely put up throughout as well and go through some great archives in case you missed them. But we're not ready to take that holiday break for the better part of 4 weeks, so stay tuned. We have a lot of great stuff. Although I do want to mention one thing that will be on during the holiday break before we call it a night. I had an opportunity at the Miami Hurricanes game to talk to one of my longtime colleagues, close friend that I work with at the Hollandale Digest, named Larry Bluestein. If this guy isn't South Florida sports, I don't know who the heck is. And Larry and I did a 45-minute show before the Hurricanes game at Hard Rock / Joe Robbie Stadium, and that will be probably aired around the third week or so on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. I'll put that in there. We blanket the South Florida Tribune sports scene like nobody ever would in 45 minutes. And Larry's a guy I have so much love and admiration as a colleague and a friend. And this is a show that you can just, if you're an average sports fan, we not only talk about the South Florida sports scene, but we talk about new media as well. And knowing that, like you, George, and I, Larry's been a part of it his entire life. And he dates back to quite a few years ago. So it's something that we're going to release in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and most likely on a Monday night. So stay tuned. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. But Will, even Dynamite today, you just gave us 2 ideas and a whole lot more. And once again,
thanks, Will.
We won't need you in the chat room tomorrow night, Will, just so you know. You kind of have to use your voice a little bit tomorrow night. Then again, no, you don't kind of have to use your voice. You got to use your voice tomorrow night. So get that energy set up, Mr. Vogel. We're going to be working you extremely hard. Maybe not. I don't know. Stay tuned, but keep your blood pressure down. And if that isn't good enough advice, watch The Lion King and just say Hakuna Matata, no worries when you get on tomorrow night's edition of 108 Central Baseball Talks. So with that said, okay, Jeremy, give me some final thoughts about what you saw here with this, or I'll let you open it up to any other thing that you may want to mention. You want to go ahead and put that on?
Well, I want to say this was a dominating effort by the Michigan Wolverines, to say the least. And also, I did get some Lions news via NFL Network that Charles Harris was placed on the IR, and James "The Problem" Houston has been added to the 53-man active roster permanently. And after his performance versus the Buffalo Bills, I don't see how they couldn't add him to the 53-man roster. I mean, he had 2 tackles, 2 sacks, and 2 quarterback hits, and 2 tackles for loss.
Okay. George, some thoughts?
Well, I enjoyed the program tonight. I think Michigan, hats off to Harbaugh and his coaching staff. Terrific job they've done this year. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about just briefly the fact that the NCAA also has levied a fine, a huge fine, the Big Ten, Big Ten against Michigan State for the tunnel incident. And they've reprimanded Michigan too. They are calling out Michigan because their security was not top notch, what they should have had going in and out of that field, meaning through the tunnel, out into the field, or back in the tunnel, back to the locker room. So they've been reprimanded as well, but I think they deserve to be.
Okay. Let me point out this show could be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, if you're watching via Facebook Live, Twitter, or YouTube, or wherever, we will be expanding to a total of 6 platforms in 2023. One of the things that everybody has to look forward to. But if you haven't subscribed to the South Florida Tribune yet, YouTube channel, it's easy. Just go to youtube.com, look for South Florida Tribune, and then go hit the subscribe button. So, but that said, I'm making sure that Jeremy, George, and everybody gets a little bit more exposure. And of course, we've come a long way, but we have a lot of ways to go. We'll be the first to admit it. So we're not perfect as well. The only closing thought I have is congratulations to the city of Detroit Ford Field for landing the 2027 Final Four. Obviously, to me, if they got it right the first time, the NCAA thought enough of them to bring it back to Michigan, more power to them. So I'm really happy that they're being recognized and they're going to get another Final Four. I went to the one in 1982 when Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, and company were there. It was a great thing. I don't know when and if I'll get back there again, but I'm happy for the city of Detroit for going out there and getting it again. And you know what? Kudos to the Lions. They gave the Buffalo Bills a game on Thanksgiving. They did when everybody wrote them off for the dead. And it was a one-possession game that decided all the way down to the end. Won't get any more details with that. That's because obviously we had a lot to work on tonight. With that said, Jeremy, why don't you let everybody know how they get a hold of you?
Well, as you can see, my Twitter handle's right there. It's at Smokin' Jeremy B. You can also find me on the South Florida Tribune, underneath the Motor City Tribune heading as one of their list of authors that I write about the Lions. You can also find me on Facebook at Motor City Kneecap Biters, or on YouTube at Kneecap Biting with Smokin' Jeremy B, as well as here on the SouthFloridaTribune.com YouTube channel.
Yeah, I do a great job with your writing. You know, one thing I learned about your writing, if there's ever a guy to me that writes concise, interesting articles, Jeremy's done it. Keep it simple, stupid is definitely one thing that Jeremy does, and I really am impressed with the way you keep making it all your stories are very easy reads, and they're fun to read. So keep up the good work. All right, George, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is George.
Hardly tell.
I'm the author of Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. It's a book chronicling the history of sports media in Detroit and Michigan, all the way back from the days of Ty Tyson to the days of Brad Galley and Bernie Smilovitz and Scott Morganroth as well. Scott's featured in the book. He's got a couple pictures in there we published, Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Connors. The book is $19.99. You can get it on Amazon, or there's a link on the South Florida Tribune website. So makes a great Christmas gift. You can reach me at SNG Sports 99 on Twitter. You can reach me on LinkedIn, George Eichhorn, or gichorn@yahoo.com. And I'm proud to be part of this show every Monday night and filling in when Scott needs some other guests on other programs as well. And you can read me at the South Florida Tribune, Motor City Tribune.
And you got a customer here. Will says he's going to buy your book in January. So,
okay,
right.
Thank you, Will.
That's all right. Well, if he wants to come on this show once in a while, my advice to Mr. Vogel is you better learn about the market. You might participate in, but his heart's in the right place. More power to the kid. So, nevertheless, let me go over some of our information. If you're watching on South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, you'll see that my Twitter handle is there at Tribune South. Also, we have another Twitter handle as well. The Motor City Tribune is at Tribune City. I'll mention it. I'll put that on the ticker the next time we go out there and do this as well. I should also point out the fact that, hey, listen, you know what? www.southfloridatribune.com gets it done. And what's so good about that website? We got written content, we have the broadcast, and we have an awful lot of things that you can look at, as well as local, national news. One of my local guys who I'm extremely proud of is a guy by the name of David Volz. This guy does an outstanding job with our local contact. You talk about a one-man writing machine. David Volz is definitely that. So kudos to David as well. Candy Ebling, what else can I say about her? You know, she this woman here takes pictures for the South Florida Tribune. She fills in with me when I need her as a broadcaster. And more importantly, she goes out there and is the control person that keeps the website up and running. So once again, Candy Ebling, kudos. You do an unbelievable job. And in the words of Dick Vitale, she's awesome, baby. And if you want to email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com gets it done. So I really enjoyed this working with you guys as usual. My two heavy hitters that come here, George and Jeremy, they always have a place on more than one show, even though this is the one they've been on the most. But the one thing I can say, and we'll be adding new talent in the year 2023 and maybe bringing a little bit in the rest of the year, but look for a lot of new faces in 2023. We have a lot of good people out there, and I'm always on a mission to add as many good talent as I can. Jeremy was an ad this year, and to me, he's making me look like a genius. So keep making me look like a genius, no matter what your nicknames are for specific colleges. It doesn't matter, and whatever candidate you have. So again, meanwhile, so on behalf of Smoking Jeremy B, George Eichler, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Fire Up Michigan. George, good. Go out there and have a good time covering the Knicks and the Pistons tomorrow night. I'm like you. If there's an opportunity to be in the field, I'd take it, and then I'd come back on when the time comes, because it's all about making sure you're on the newsmaker. So more power to you. Get it done and give me some good stuff, okay?
Will do.
All right. So meanwhile, once again, we appreciate you joining us in this edition of Fire Up Michigan. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Good night, everybody, and have a safe and healthy week. Bye now.
Let's go blue and beat Perdon't.
There you go. That was good.
Let's go blue and beat Jacksonville.
And those are the final words of the night. Good night, everybody.